Ask the Mayor. Your chance to ask the Mayor of Weymouth, Bob Hedlund, questions about the town and or anything else that you have concerns about. Ask the Mayor is pre-recorded. And now, Ask the Mayor with Bob Hedlund.
And we're back with another episode of Ask the Mayor. I'm your citizen inquisitor and advocate, Jim Melody, and as always, I'm joined with our mayor, the esteemed Robert Hedlund. Bob, it's certainly a somber time in our town here as it's July of 2018, and we've just gone through a very historic situation that's developed, and I think the whole town is certainly has rallied around these tragic events. Comments relative to what's occurred over the course of the last couple of weeks from your office?
Well, we could do a whole show on this, and I know that WTC will be running a vigil long before this airs. But it was good to see the town come together in support of the Chesna family, the police department, and Vera Adams, who, by the way, the taping today is the day that Ms. Adams is being buried, the day of her funeral. That was a little bit earlier. The Weymouth Police provided an escort to the gravesite from the funeral home for her, although the services were private. So a lot happening, obviously, and tremendous outpouring of support, everything from lemonade stands to people walking in the office here constantly with donations for the family or in the memory of Vera Adams. There's a guy here that just dropped off a painting that he did.
Oh, phenomenal.
So there's just a ton of stuff happening. Taylor Swift, as many will know by the time this airs, her show is tonight at Gillette. I'm not sure if she didn't seek publicity in terms of the number of tickets, but I think she donated 1,000 tickets that were distributed amongst family of police, fire, and others in town. So there was a lot of show of support that came from a lot of different directions, from all over the country, all over the world, actually.
It definitely was an international story, and I'm sorry we were the center of that.
The amount of letters, too, by the way, Jim. Yesterday I got to see the mail that has accumulated between condolence cards and contributions. The stack of mail that's come into the police department is unbelievable.
It's unprecedented. It's difficult to comment on. I suppose I think every family in their own way has gone through tragedies of certainly not this proportion, but they've taken some hits, and I can say from personal.
And I want to give a shout out to. There's a lot of thanks we have to give, but just something that came to my attention in the last 24 hours. We know that Equitable Bank is handling the fund set up in memory of Vera Adams, and those contributions will go towards fixtures and outfitting a reading room at the new library in her honor. And we can talk more about that in a minute, because I know that's topical right now in terms of what memorials are going to be done moving forward. But big shout out to Equitable Bank and South Shore Savings. Without any fanfare or publicity, is expending a lot of time coordinating and handling the receipts that are coming in on behalf of the Chesna family. And they've actually had a staffer at the police station cataloging and taking care of that end of things. So points to the importance of local banks and community banks that are right in your neighborhood. Just a little shout out to them.
And again, the support, it seems to be coming from every corner. It's phenomenal to see, and we hope that provides some sort of solace, of course, to all the parties that are involved personally. It's, of course, needless to say, we got a variety of comments as it relates to the episode.
Oh, good.
Very quickly, just two that we want to throw out there. They're as brief as from Keith Nastasia, thoughts and prayers to the Chestnut family and the entire Weymouth Police Department. From Keith Nastasia, as brief as that, or our old friend Ed Hartnett writing a pretty involved note regarding, starting off with, I'm usually lighthearted in my questions, but, ending with, I feel safe in my town of Weymouth, even though there's been a lot of changes in the type of calls the police go to every day. I love this town, and I love it even more that Sergeant Chestnut and many others were protecting me and my neighbors. In closing, let the officers officers do their job, so we don't have to have days like this with what just happened. Rest in peace, Sergeant Michael Chesner, and let us not forget Bear Adams. God bless Weymouth and the police officers who served this town at Hartnett. And there's just a variety of emotional moments, starting with, of course, Officer Chesner's wife or parents who stated, "I've never been prouder to be from Weymouth," and the sense of community has been certainly overwhelming.
Yeah, and these are probably representative of literally. I don't know how many, total, but I can say with confidence, certainly over 1,000, if not thousands, that have come in. So, we've gotten them here. Gestures have come far and wide. I know that flowers were sent by the New York Yankees, for instance.
I saw
that on social
Incredible.
media. So it's very representative. We could spend a year reading all the correspondence that came in.
And again, we hope they can provide some sort of comfort to all those involved. And the sense of community, I know, has really helped a lot of folks get through this very troubling and tough time. And we're in the early stages, and I'm sure it'll be ongoing. There's a variety of efforts that I've heard about moving forward as well. And can you comment, Bob, on some of these? I had heard some whispers of the Bear Adams section, maybe in the library. We've heard, your successor, Patrick O'Connor, has he suggested that the Fall River Bridge be renamed the Officer Chestnut? Can you comment on any of these things at all?
Yeah, so, it was pretty quick out of the gate when people started talking about memorials. I mean,
sure.
The comment made, I think the governor was on a radio show, it might have been Greg Hill, who's done great work, by the way, with the Hill Foundation, raising money, a significant amount, and was asked about getting the blue lights turned on at the Fall River Bridge, which, by the way, the work isn't complete. They're not. The programmable lights aren't active yet, unfortunately. And then Greg Hill, I think, mentioned, why don't you name the bridge for Sergeant Chesner, then Officer Chesner? And the governor said, yeah, great idea. And, I'll ask Senator, if Senator O'Connor files the bill, and I'll sign it. It probably wasn't that well thought out, in my opinion. I had a conversation subsequent to the funeral about that with the police department. They have some other ideas, we have some other ideas, and my concern is that, and this was reported in the Patriot Ledger, but my concern is that as someone who's grown up in the shadow of the Fall River Bridge my whole life, that was renamed in 1979 for Congressman Burke. No one calls it the Burke Bridge.
I was unaware of that.
Well, that's the whole point.
Yeah.
I think that the Fall River Bridge name is going to stick, and I think that over time, people will forget, and we want to see that whatever memorial we do is enduring and is permanent and will stick. So we're going to have that discussion with the family and the police department, but we wanted. And the police department concurs. I spoke with the chief yesterday on this matter, that give the family some time to grieve, and we'll have that discussion with them. Now, as far as Vera Adams and memorializing something for her, it happened a lot quicker, and the reason being, there were different suggestions. We had some ideas. By all reports, she was an avid reader. And we do have a new library that's going to be constructed. The groundbreaking is this fall, I should say winter in December. And the family wanted to make a gesture on behalf of the town. They wanted in the obituary a vehicle for which people could contribute in her name. And we made a decision in consultation with them, and I want to thank the funeral home. No, not Cohane, Shepherd in South Weymouth, in Columbian Square. Garrett did great work in coordinating this. And they liked the idea of the reading room in the library, so I signed off on that, although we still have a process we have to follow internally, and it has to go to the memorial committee. But the bank will be holding the money in escrow until we can formalize that, and we're going to submit that measure to the memorial committee next week, formally requesting that one of the rooms be the Vera Adams reading room. So it's interesting that the grant from the state does not pay for fixtures, So I think that's a nice fit. It helps the town immensely. It's something that will be permanent, enduring, that the family supports, and it will certainly help the town to furnish that room. So it's we think a win-win all around, and so that's in place now. So if anyone wants to contribute in her memory and help out the library, that's a good cause. And Equitable Bank, it can just be sent to Equitable Bank. They're handling that fund.
I'm sure the crew can probably drop that address in at the bottom of the screen, in post-production. And as you said, the fundraising efforts have come from all corners. I've seen the lemonade stands. I'm in a golf league on Thursday where they were passing the hat down at Weathervane with
the foundation, Tunnels to Towers, has helped out with the mortgage for the Chesna family's home. There's all kinds of stuff going on. Yeah.
So
the response has been really good.
It's been a really trouble and trying time for the town and the citizens, but the leadership from you to Chief Grimes deserves tremendous support and respect for the words he used and the leadership of his department. It's really been across the board, and it's again, to get back to the quote from the parents, I think a lot of folks feel the same way. They've never been prouder to be from this town. And of course, as we move forward on our program, it's a clumsy segue. I don't know how we segue into some of the questions that are at hand, but this topic I'm sure will be discussed and revisited on a regular basis as we move forward. And again, great job to all the folks in our town, and Bob, to your office as far as getting everybody through this as best we can.
And let me give a shout out to staff that put the vigil. I mean, some well-meaning residents in an organic fashion on Monday after the tragedy on Sunday wanted to have the vigil. They advertised it on social media that it would be held at the Fogg Library, and that thing grew, that it would have been a logistical nightmare to do it. So the town jumped in Monday morning on that, worked with the folks that conceived it, and we did it at the high school, and the turnout was amazing. So let me give a shout out to everybody that helped pull that together. And when you consider how that went off and that it was just done and the organizing started that morning for that event that night, it was amazing. So I hope WETC runs that intermittently. And maybe you should make a note that it's run every July 15th in perpetuity as a reminder too. So we get some questions?
Yeah. We certainly do, and again, tough to move on, but
I don't know what you got in front of me, but I can see in big black ink the heading on it that somebody wrote.
Well, I figured we'd start off, if it's okay with you, with revisiting an issue and a question that had come up, as we're prone to do from time to time.
Can I just go back to the tragedy of last week real quick? I took some pictures from the motorcade, from the funeral home, from the church, to the burial site. From my vantage, I rode with the police chief, and being technologically challenged that I am, I'm going to see if I can get some help from WETC, download the pictures and the videos, and maybe you could make a little quick montage and we could run that on WETC. Okay, great. Some of them were through the windshield, so it's not too clear, but it was an interesting perspective, seeing everybody lining the streets and Five Corners and just all the way from Hanover and the overpasses. It was unbelievable.
The outpouring has just been, there's no words to describe it. Phenomenal. Bob, again, there's no other elegant way to segue into these questions, but as we commented on, this one does have bold handwriting on it, and it is related to a summertime issue. And the $1 million question was, is Whitman's Pond swimmable? Was the question that came up in the past.
Question before.
Yeah, we had, but we do have an official answer to that.
Okay, who's the official answer from?
From Daniel McCormick, who is your director of the Weymouth Health Department. I'm sure you're familiar with Mr. McCormick.
So he watches the show. Give him a raise.
Well, right after me, I'd like to think. Whitman's Pond is not a permitted bathing beach in accordance with 105 CMR 445. The water quality is not sampled and the swim areas are not inspected in accordance with the regulation. Therefore, I cannot recommend that anyone swim there. Years and years ago, there was a permitted beach on Lake Street, but they started having issues with biting fish and swimmer's itch, a parasite that burrows under your skin and causes a rash. It was decided to close the beach and has never been reopened, please let me know if you have any
Okay,
additional
so I stand
questions.
corrected a little bit by staff. So I did answer. I remember the answer I gave because I saw the rerun just the other day and watched it. I got caught up. I mentioned the fact they used to provide swimming lessons.
Yeah,
there.
and I was
you
an
took
attendee.
them, right?
In fact, that could explain a few things.
I was just going to say, the water quality after Jim took a dip.
Of course, that's when you could go up to Denley's for a beer when you were 15. That's a whole
I
other
hope you didn't have the
story.
beer before you went in the water. But anyway, I knew about the bacteria and the bite. What did he say? Biting fish.
It is called. Yeah, he did refer to biting fish. I'm not familiar with that
so
species.
I remember that was highly publicized at the time.
Okay.
And it was shut down. I just didn't know if they were still monitoring the water quality, and evidently they are not because it's permanently closed now. So
Well, it's kind of interesting because we
I actually
certainly
saw some people at that beach the other day down there.
swimming.
Yeah.
Well, and certainly it's a popular fishing spot. So I'm wondering, how these two are connected. But that being said, you asked and it has been answered. It is not swimmable. Please stay away from swimming.
See, we strive. We strive for follow-up and accuracy here. So thank you, Dan McCormick.
And a segue to this is our first episode after the July 4th festivity. Speaking about our great waterways here at the town, what's your review of our annual 4th of July celebration? Another great job, as far as I could see.
It went off well, yeah.
Yeah, phenomenal.
Good
Yeah, the
job,
attendance is
everyone.
tremendous, and another great day.
You enjoyed it from your vantage point on Great Hill.
I did not get up to Great Hill for one of the first and few times. We have more friends moving down to that area. That's become a very popular residential area, certainly more so than ever. And we've got plenty of pals that are moving down there. So I did miss an opportunity once again. All right, Bob, these are in no particular order. This is an abutter of Route 18 who's writing in and says, Dear Mayor, I'm a resident of Highland Place, a short side street that directly abuts Route 18. We must battle cars queuing up for Herbie's Car Wash regularly at the end of our street, and now the Route 18 upgrades are being done by the state. When construction and improvements are finally completed on Route 18, will streets like Highland Place see any benefits of turning lanes or traffic lights to ease our access to and from our homes? With this new widened roadway, residents like us are going to be looking at traversing 4 lanes of traffic. Are you able to speak to this, as I realize this is a state project? And in closing, please keep up the good work. The improvements over the last year have been real and tangible, making Weymouth a great place to live. And that's from a friend named Joe. So any comments as far as
Yeah, I don't know how to
construction?
answer that one. I mean, getting in and out of Highland Place,
Are you familiar with Highland Place is?
yes.
Okay.
Under any circumstance is
A challenge. If you're coming the other way.
And I don't know if, certainly no turning lane for him, but I don't know if the widening project is going to enhance or make worse his ability to get in and out. I just don't, I don't know. I would think with wider lanes, which may mean less people queuing up, now taking a left-hand turn out of any side street to cross 4 lanes on Route 18 is a challenge every day and any day.
Sure.
I would think, unless it's 3 in the morning. But that's really the only comment I have on that.
What is, off the top of your head, can you speak to the
We
length
do
of
follow
that
up on this,
project?
and we will look at that. The length of the project.
What, is
It's
that,
a
is that
4-year
5
total
4 years?
project.
I thought it was 5 to 7, so it's 4 years?
And I had a meeting today with management of National Grid relative to part of their work as part of the Route 18 project that impacts Union Street because of the relocation of the gas main that feeds communities south of us. So we're on top of things there, and so far, Gioso has been a good contractor to work with that has the contract to do it. They've coordinated well with our DPW, with our planning department, but it's going to be a long haul.
Boy, when you're driving down Route 18 heading south, it's amazing the amount of trees that they've already cut down right by the Union Point development. It's a whole new day down there. Needless to say, it's going to be
The
interesting.
big
how they
impact
manage
comes
that.
when that bridge is going to be replaced.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Oh, no kidding,
That's
huh?
a big part of it, yeah. So you'll see some disruption then, but it hasn't been as bad as I think
Definitely
some
been
of
more
us
manageable.
feared
Yeah,
thus far.
I would
knock on
agree.
wood.
Yeah, I'm down there all the time. All right, well, Bob, Ed Hartnett, of course, always wins the prize for most frequent inquisitor. He wrote kind of an involved one, which we did edit down. So here we go. From Ed Hartnett. Hello again to my favorite personalities, Mayor Bob Hedlund and Jim. You are on my mind.
I'm glad I made
melody.
the cut this time. Last time you left me out.
Mayor, I believe that neighboring communities are jealous of your leadership success and are using a magnifying glass to figure out how Weymouth is accomplishing so many projects all around the same time. I know you're trying to make this town the best on the South Shore, and I see jealousy from others in power. You may have read about city officials trying to eliminate vacant storefronts by eminent domain, which I've mentioned to you before. When there are vacant stores or houses that stand many years boarded up without any movement from owners of property, is there any way you can light a fire under these people, clean up your property, or lose it? And by the way, I received my mug. It's very impressive. And I also want to mention that Mary Hindrich, Hindrich, is also very good at her job. You're lucky to have her and her staff to help you with all the graphics that they use on the show. I find it very funny and entertaining. Thank you again, Ed Hart, and of course, thank you to the great WETC.
Well, I have a question for Ed, and he can answer this because I know he writes with some regularity. I'd like to know what beverage he's putting in the mug.
Before he writes.
Now, as far as the question itself, this is kind of a variation of things we've gotten before. And you know, for any community to undertake eminent domain proceedings for blighted property is extremely tough. Very, 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 very tough.
Oh, seriously? I thought you could give him a kick in the pants within 6 months. You might have him out. It's years and years.
Yeah, it's a very complicated legal issue. I mean, we use eminent domain obviously for other things, whether it be road minor takings. Usually, that's done in a cooperative fashion.
Pardon me for interrupting. In fact, is that in place on Route 18 at all? Because certainly it seems like there's a lot of commercial properties.
Absolutely, there were land takings involved in that, but It was a negotiated process. In some cases, the private parties didn't agree with the settlement and have sued the state. And there's a process to that. But yeah, that's a good example of a use of eminent domain powers.
But down the landing, didn't you give a few kicks in the pants down there to try to get everybody in line?
No.
Okay.
I mean, in terms of DeLagus, we met with him the first week after I was sworn in and started a cooperative process with him, which unfortunately, as we sit here 2.5 years later, you know, he's sitting on a permitted project, but has run into the problem with a federal agency, the Army Corps of Engineers, and you know, that is being worked out now.
Okay. But he started, there's some shovels on the ground down there.
No.
Oh, the buildings have been raised?
Well, yeah, but he hasn't started construction, he did demolition. But in terms of using eminent domain because someone has a boarded up storefront is extremely tough. What we have done is, for the first time, we've created a blight ordinance here in town, which has been used. And it's been employed now a number of times. But usually, just a little bit of persuasion by myself, or I'll give a shout out to our planning department director, Bob Luongo, has yielded results. And I'll give you an example, for instance. He had a conversation with the owner of the former shoe factory that's in Columbian Square, which I think you drive by every day across from Bob's Muffin Shop.
The big white building.
The big white building.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
A nice conversation ensued, and that guy, you know, we pointed out, look, we're making all these investments in Columbian Square. You know, it'd be nice if you could do something to enhance
Sure,
your
the siding
building.
and the roof look like crap.
He replaced windows.
Yeah.
He put new siding
Looks
up.
phenomenal.
I'd like, if I had my druthers, I'd like to see some signage improved there, and maybe signage coordinated amongst tenants, but those are probably things that the tenants do on their own.
So that
But
you
he was
reached
great.
out directly to that guy and
Bob
he fell in line.
Luongo,
That's
in that case,
dynamite.
Bob
Wow.
Luongo had a discussion with him. There are different property owners I've spoken directly to that have done different improvements at our suggestion.
Excellent.
And you know, it's not a heavy-handed thing. We say, look, it might be. I think I used the opportunity in a couple cases for properties that we paved their street, and I said, look, we're making an investment out in front. Maybe you could do this or do that. I'll tell you one anecdote. Hopefully he doesn't see this episode. I know he lives out of town and he has a lot of property in other towns, but I was very disappointed in how a particular large landlord keeps one particular property he has in Weymouth. And he came in here to see me about another project he's doing, and I said, you know, I got to throw this out. I said, I know you have property in Norwell and Hingham and Plymouth. do the properties look like this in those towns?
Did you already know the answer to that?
Now he has a problem where customers of this particular tenant's litter, and he did have a comeback, and he said, do the customers of my tenants in those 3 towns litter like they do in yours? And I said, well, probably not, because this is one of the worst. It's a high volume place, and I'm just blown away at how people just throw stuff out. It's amazing. So it's kind of a two-way street. There's a little touche there from him, which I agree with him, you know. But we do actively use positive reinforcement and coercion to encourage people to, you know, especially commercial tenants here and landlords to, you know, keep the properties up. And by the way, the blight ordinance has actually been used in neighborhoods for private residences a number of times.
I think I've seen you with your old softball bat patrolling the streets of those commercial tenants. Well, listen.
No, but when we get complaints from neighbors about, you know, an unkempt property that's impacting their neighborhood, and in some cases, you know, we've got health issues and we got the blight ordinance, and it has been used.
I'm glad the town's stepping up. It's good to hear. Needless to say, I think it benefits us all.
And that's a development that only, you know, was employed. I think we passed the blight ordinance our first year.
But this may be the most rapidly produced Ask the Mayor. We are almost at the conclusion of this episode. We want to encourage everybody, as always, just keep the questions coming in at askmayorbob@gmail.com. Please keep the questions coming to askmayorbob@gmail.com. In fact, before we started our official 50th episode broadcast today, we had a record number of questions. We didn't do a good job getting through all of them.
So next episode, rapid fire, we'll get right into them?
Sounds great. So listen, we do need to wrap up this particular episode. I'd like to hand you the baton back to you again, Bob. Any final words on this, this incredible...
Well, it's our first taping after the tragedy of July 15th. I'll just say we want to thank the community for doing what they did, coming out, showing the support to our police department and the families of Sergeant Chesna and the families of Vera Adams.
Phenomenal.
Thank you.
Well, once again, thanks to everybody for tuning in. No tomfoolery to wrap up this show. Thanks again to everybody for tuning in.
O Lord, while I'm on my beat, may I know that you're with me and protect me as I go to guard others' lives and property. Help me ignore those who scorn and show me no respect, but be mindful of all citizens I've sworn to protect. Be with my fellow officers and guard their safety too. May I always put my duty first in the work that I must do. May I not disgrace the uniform, but bring pride to the badge I wear. That I'd be a good policeman, O Lord, would be my only prayer.
If you have a question, please email the mayor at askmayorbob@gmail.com. That's askmayorbob@gmail.com. Maybe your question will be answered on the next episode of Ask the Mayor.